Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Campaign Optimization Series and today's webinar. It's called Optimizing Your Campaigns with the Right Technology Stack. My name is Claudia Tarico. I'm the editor of Demand Gen Report, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. I'll go through a few housekeeping slides just to make sure everybody is well situated. During and after today's presentation, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback with us on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag #COSeries. All of our Twitter handles are also right here on your screen, and we look forward to connecting with you on social. You'll also actually be able to tweet from directly within the On24 platform using the Twitter widget on the left-hand side of your screen, and I'll show you that in a minute once we get to the next slide. And then finally, if you haven't done so already, please join more than 60,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by subscribing to demandgenreport.com today. All right, for today's presentation, we'll be using the On24 platform, and during the session, you'll be able to access all of the information that you could possibly need right on this toolbar right here. And like I mentioned earlier, you can tweet from directly within the platform using the Twitter widget that's on the left-hand side of your screen. And we also encourage you to ask our presenter questions today. To do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of your screen. The session is slated to run about 25 to 35 minutes with about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A following if we have enough time. So you could really submit those questions at any time using the Q&A widget. The session is also going to be recorded, and all of our attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review, share with colleagues and peers. And please, finally, we welcome you to let us know how we're doing so we can continue to improve the level of value we provide you with our webinar series and standalone webinars. So if you get a chance to, please take a quick survey that will automatically launch once the webinar session ends. You could actually also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during the webinar by clicking on the survey icon that's circled here right on the bottom of your screen. So please, before signing off today, take a moment to take this quick questionnaire. All right, so now I'm very excited to introduce our featured speaker, Charm Bianchini, who is the Vice President of Growth Marketing at Lean Data. She is responsible for the development of strategic initiatives to drive demand throughout the entire customer lifecycle. Charm has over 15 years of experience leading teams in strategic roles focused on revenue generation, marketing programs, customer marketing, marketing operations, and sales development. I've been lucky enough to know Charm for quite some time, and I always get to talk to her for some of my stories. So she's a wealth of knowledge and always has some great tips for marketers. So I assure you, you are going to love the session today and love her insights. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to you, Charm, to kick off the presentation.
Great, thanks Claudia. Hi everyone, super excited to be here today. As Claudia said, I'm Charm Bianchini, the VP of Growth Marketing at Lean Data, and we're going to talk about optimizing your campaigns with the right technology. A little bit about me. I've been at Lean Data for about 9 months and responsible for demand generation, events, marketing operations, website, a bunch of stuff. And so that's why this topic of technology and optimizing campaigns is so near and dear to my heart. Everything that I do is to grow the business across the entire life cycle, and campaign optimization and technology can really make a difference. Prior to Lean Data, I was at Marketo as well as Engagio. So today we're going to cover 4 things. We're going to talk about the state of marketing technology. We're going to take a look at Topo's marketing technology stack. I'm going to walk you through some tips for optimizing campaigns, and then I'm going to leave you with some guidelines or best practices on selecting the right technology. All right, so let's start with the state of marketing technology. And this slide shows the growth of MarTech over the past 9 years. I've been a marketer for a long time, so I remember in 2011 when there were 150 tools. And now Chief MarTech just came out last month with the latest MarTech landscape for 2020, and there's 8,000 different pieces of marketing technology. And while that's great, makes marketers' job a lot easier, it's actually overwhelming and can be difficult on how to choose and use the right technology. So we're going to talk about that today. And here's the marketing technology landscape in 2020. As I said, this was published last month, and there were a lot of funny online responses when this was put out. A lot of people said it looked like a new world or a new continent. Some people were saying it looked like Westeros. Some people were saying it looked like Westworld. But whatever it looks like, it looks pretty overwhelming, and it looks like a lot. Even if I were to drill into one of these categories, I would see just tons of logos. And if I go and start searching on those companies' websites, many times they say the exact same thing. So it's very difficult as a marketer to know exactly which technology to use, what it's going to do for you, and how it's going to really help you grow your business. All right, so I wanted to dig up some stats on technology usage, and Gartner, they conducted a marketing technology survey last year, and they just published the results in 2020. And so let's walk through a few of these. The first one is 30%. So approximately 30% of marketing budget is spent on technology. That's almost a third. And that just goes along to show, right, that it is critical that you have the right technology in order to get the right ROI from your campaigns. I love this one. It's so true. But only 58% of marketers use the full potential of their technology stack. So there's a lot of technology out there that isn't being used the right way or not used at all. And then two more stats from Gartner. One is 27%. So 27% of marketers report integrations or talent as being a problem to effectiveness. And then the last one is 29%. So 29% of marketers indicate that training is a major impediment to MarTech stack effectiveness. So if we look at those last three things, integrations, not being able to integrate into other various technologies, talent, not having the right people to actually be able to use the technology, and then training, which is so important, and we'll talk about not training your team on how to use the technology is a really big issue. So here's another chart that I love from Gartner, and they talk about using technology to execute your vision. And so marketing technology should be used to do your day-to-day job, but you've also got to think about the future. You've got to be thinking about, are there emerging trends you want to capitalize on? Is there a new market that you want to get into or a new industry that you want to penetrate? And so Gartner gives some really good guidance on how to use technology for both day-to-day as well as future looking. All right, so now let's talk about Topo's marketing technology stack. And hopefully all of you guys know who Topo is. Topo is a sales and marketing analyst firm, really well known in B2B and high tech. They actually recently got acquired by Gartner, so I thought it was perfect that I was pulling some Gartner stacks and now going to look at Topo's marketing technology stack. Just like Gartner, they also conducted a survey and put together a report with some results that we're going to look at. And basically, they created a marketing technology stack, which I love because it's very easy to look at. There's not 8,000 different kinds of technologies on it. It's simple in the sense that there's only 5 kind of core categories. And they also talk about the technology stack really needing to be flexible, right? It needs to be able to deliver on any kind of go-to-market motion. And that's so important in today's age. You know, a long time ago, people were maybe doing one go-to-market strategy, like everything was inbound or everything was outbound, or Years ago it was everything is ABM, right? Do ABM. But now as we become more sophisticated, we realize we can't just do one thing for the most part to drive the results we need. We've got to take an approach of looking at what makes sense for that line of business or that segment, and then applying the right go-to-market strategy. So maybe for your small business, that's still going to be inbound. Maybe for mid-market, you're going to do more outbound. But maybe for large enterprise, that's where ABM fits in. So most marketers and most companies, as they grow and they become bigger and sell to a vast audience, they need to be able to deliver on any go-to-market motion. And so this slide right here shows you need to have 5 different kinds of technology. You need to think about your infrastructure, so your CRM. You need to think about data. Data is so important with contact data, account data, intent data. And then there's core applications. So core application to any marketer, of course, is a marketing automation platform. If you're doing something account-based and your marketing automation platform is all lead-based, then you need to have some sort of account-based platform. And then these shared ones are shared with not only the marketing technology stack, but with also the sales technology stack. So lead to account matching and routing, which we'll talk about, a sales engagement platform, a sales enablement platform. Those are super important as well. And then, of course, you've got all of your channel, your campaign execution kind of categories, like webinars or content syndication or direct mail. And then, as we know as marketers, at the end of the day, it comes back to measurement. So you need to be able to show that you're spending money on this technology or this kind of program and you're getting some sort of return that makes sense for the business. The other thing that Topo did was they asked some questions around technology that people find most impactful and are highly satisfied with. And so I wanted to focus on those technologies. And if we look at the upper right-hand quadrant, you can see 6 technologies in there. You can see web personalization, you can see CRM, you can see contact data, there's some account-based platforms and advertising, and then there's one called lead to account matching and routing. And what I wanted to do was spend a little bit of time talking about lead to account matching and routing, because a lot of times people overlook this category. So let's talk about lead to account matching and routing and find out why it's such an emerging category and why Topo thinks this category is going to double in a few years. All right, so lead to account matching is the technology that associates leads, contacts, opportunities with the correct accounts in your CRM. So it's vital if you're doing any kind of territory programs, if you're doing account-based. You probably have heard that lead to account matching is necessary for account-based. It's basically taking all of your data, your leads, your contacts that may not be unified in your database and grouping them all together so you have a holistic view of your data. And then once you have that data, the routing part of it kicks in, and you've created rules for where this data needs to go and when it needs to go. And so it takes that matched data, and then through the routing technology, we'll send it to the right rep or whoever else you need to send it to. All right, so let's pause there for a second on technology. And what I want to go back to is tips for optimizing campaigns with technology, the fun stuff. And so let's get started. All right, so I've outlined 4 tips that I want to walk through today. Tip 1 is all about analyzing your campaigns. So the first thing that you need to do is create a campaign blueprint. And by that, I mean really understanding and dissecting each stage of the campaign. I'm not saying to create a campaign blueprint so you keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's not going to work, right? You need to always change it up and try new things. But I do want you to look at the dissection of a campaign from pre-planning to planning to targeting to execution, implementation, etc. Dissect and understand each stage of the campaign, what happens during that stage, what technology is being used. Is it running great, or do you think that there's an area for improvement? So, for example, if I take a look at an email being sent out and I'm looking at the actual execution part of the email stage, do I have the right kind of email send software, right? Is the email being sent? What happens when there's bounces? Am I able to manage all of those bounces? What happens if I send to 50,000 people and 1,000 respond? How am I managing all of those human replies? Do I have some sort of software in order to group all of those human replies? Or maybe am I missing those human replies, which could cause problems for leads if it's not going directly as a reply to a sales rep? Or what happens if people are unsubscribing and I miss that, right? So that's what I mean by dissecting a campaign and really understanding where there is area for improvement. The other thing for analysis of campaigns, it's all about testing. Testing is so key. I can't stress enough, especially in this environment, there's some companies that are thriving and some industries that are thriving, but for most software companies, it's going okay, right? These are uncertain times, so we don't know exactly what is going to happen, and it's probably unrealistic to think that we're going to get a ton more money and resources. So we're probably going to have to take what we have, or maybe even be asked to cut and still get those returns that people are expecting. And the way to do that is through testing. So you've got to make sure that you're being creative, that you're testing each week and finding ways to improve. And then the other thing that you need to do is measurement, right? Measure early stage and late stage metrics. You can't optimize your campaigns if you don't know how they're performing. So make sure that you are looking at engagement data for early stage. Are you able to see how many people within the right personas are engaging with your campaigns, or how many target accounts are responding to your emails? Look at the funnel, right? Either pull benchmark industry data or look at your own funnel metrics and understand for these campaigns, are 10% converting into meetings? Are 50% converting into meetings? What do I expect for that number? Is it good or is it bad? And what can I do along the way to try to improve it? And then, of course, at the end of the day, it's all about ROI. We want to make sure that we're generating pipeline, and not only pipeline, we want to make sure that we're actually seeing some closed business come from these campaigns. Tip number 2 is ensuring that you have the right technology. So my advice to you guys is don't throw people at problems. I've been at companies where we've done this. I've been at companies where we needed data cleaned, and so when we were done with our day, 5, 6 o'clock, whatever time it was, we'd have a whole offshore team that would come on. They would look through every single lead, look up things individually, and work until 7 in the morning, and then when we came back on, they would push all of these leads, this data out to us. That works to an extent, but the problem is once you start really growing and scaling, you can't keep adding hundreds and hundreds of more people in there, right? There's a point of diminishing returns. There's also human error. So if you have the money and you're able to use technology, I really encourage you guys to ensure that you use technology for your campaigns and have that mission-critical technology in order to run them effectively. What I like to do is conduct a technology audit. As we heard from what Topo said, right, you need to make sure that your technology is flexible, it's versatile, you're able to deliver on any go-to-market motion or multiple go-to-market motions. You want to look for the technologies that give you guys high impact as well as satisfaction, because once you have high impact and satisfaction, that means your adoption rates will go up. You never want to have technology that you're paying for that nobody's using and nobody's adopting. That just doesn't make sense. And then, of course, look at the technology that can really help you capitalize on those emerging trends. Look at those emerging categories that can get you to the next level. What I love to do is pilot new technology. I actually make my team have some MBOs around it. I want to make sure that we don't pick a technology that we used 5 years ago and think that's the best thing out there. It's not. There's always new technology being introduced. As we saw earlier, 8,000 different pieces of marketing technology today. So I encourage you to visit different sites or reviews, or look at the MarTech landscape and see, through your campaign blueprint dissection, where is it that you need some technology that maybe could help. And then most importantly is to make time for training and to use the technology. I remember when I was at Marketo, we were so busy, and they were kind of in the business of doing a lot of swaps, which I'm not a big fan of swaps, because swaps usually means that a sales rep is trying to close a deal and you're swapping for a certain amount, or you're swapping for free, and a lot of times this technology is being forced upon the marketing group and it doesn't meet your needs. But the problem also with swaps is that you are getting so much technology thrown at you that you don't have any time to use it. And so we were already running at over 100% capacity, and then we were asked to use all this different technology. And we didn't also get training on it, right? So that's just setting us up for failure. It's setting us up to feel overwhelmed and like we're cracking, but also it is setting us up to not use the technology and to have a bad taste of that technology in our mouths. All right, so tip number 3 is all about the plumbing, and I like to think of it this way. If you're buying a brand new house for $10 million and you look inside at the plumbing, you don't expect to see it being all rotted, right? You expect brand new copper or whatever they use these days. So plumbing is essential. I like to ask questions as soon as I start a new job. So, for example, when I came in 9 months ago at Lean Data, I said, hey, before I even start spending any of this marketing budget, I'd like to know, where are the leads going to go? Show me how, if I generate 20,000 leads in the next 6 months, where are they going to go? What happens if it's a target account? What happens if it's a brand new account that's not in our system? What happens if it's an open opportunity? What happens if it's a customer account, right? Show me that nothing's going into a black hole. Show me also that I can see how reps are going to follow up, because those have been real problems in my career, not knowing how people are following up, not knowing where leads have gone. And you can go and spend $100 million on campaigns, but if you can't get the leads to the reps at the right time, you shouldn't even spend any money, right? So you've got to treat these leads like gold. You've got to make sure that your plumbing will support all of your different go-to-market strategies. If you're doing an account-based strategy, make sure that all of the parent accounts and the child accounts for that account is being funneled to the right rep. And what this really means is, you should think about having a really solid lead management strategy. And a lead management strategy isn't just a marketing automation system to send out emails and generate leads. That's a part of it, but it's also, how do we automate that data? How do we make sure that we're routing leads to the reps quickly once they come in? Because if you can automate and route those quickly, then you're going to get increased conversion rates. You're going to get better ROI on your campaigns. And you're, at the end of the day, going to ensure that all leads are touched. Another tip that I love is SLAs, right? SLAs encourage people to do the right thing, and those are service level agreements. So I have service level agreements with my SDR team saying, for this type of lead, if it's a demo request, let's say, I expect you to follow up in 2 hours. For this type of lead, I expect you to follow up in 8 hours. Or this type of lead, it's 24 hours. And you get this all in writing and documented, so in case things aren't being followed up in the way that you expect, you can go back to this SLA and talk to them about it. Or if you have sophisticated plumbing, like a routing system, you can easily, after 2 hours, if something isn't followed up, snatch it out of that rep's queue and send it to someone else who's actually doing a good job. Another thing besides the plumbing is being able to see the engagement within campaigns and who's following up. So this is campaign engagement. This is what we look at a lot. And I can see here that 98 people are part of this educational webinar. And the part in green is what I love. It says 21 of them have no sales follow-up. And this is what I send over to my SDR manager all the time. I send them the link to this report and I say, hey, this might be an area for you to follow up. Because at the end of the day, outbounding is hard, right? We know if they're trying to make cold calls, that is a hard thing to do. And it's a muscle that really needs to be developed. But sending warm leads that maybe weren't followed up on for some reason or another, sending them lists and giving them a nudge ensures that your campaigns can have the highest ROI. Tip number 4 is all around making data a priority. And I love data. I love geeking out to data. Data is so important. So I really encourage you guys to take a step back and think about your data and your data strategy. I've never been at a company where people aren't complaining about data, right? Sales reps complain about data. Marketing complains about data. So it's not like it's done, we've got this, no big deal. It always can be improved. And so take the time to invest in it, because the better you can make it, the better your campaign performance will be. And you'll see it flow throughout the entire campaign. So for example, segmentation. When you're trying to pull a list, if you're able to pull in data of people who, have recently responded, or people who are active in the last 12 months, that's going to give you higher engagement rates in your emails. Once you have that list and you want to do some targeted messaging, maybe you want to write to a certain industry or write to a certain level or a certain persona. If you don't have the right data, you're going to be off in terms of your messaging. And then, of course, if you're doing anything account-based marketing relies on good data. It relies on being able to take a look at leads and contacts and group them all at the account level. And what I like to do is create an ongoing data hygiene plan, because it's not just a one and done. It never is, right? And so what we do at Lean Data is we formed a data committee. We meet once a month, and it's a cross-functional team. We've got VPs of sales on it. I'm on that representing marketing. We've got our MOPS team and our ops team on that. We've got someone from IT. And so all of us come with different perspectives or different wishes and wants. And then we prioritize and we figure out, what are we going to do? What's our action plan? Who's going to own what? And we have some goals and some SLAs around that as well, with some good timelines. And we're making progress. And you can see it, a little bit is improved month over month. And so we report on that progress, and we come together to improve it cross-functionally. All right, so hopefully those were tips where you can use technology or data to improve some of your campaigns. And now what I wanted to do was talk to you a little bit about selecting the right technology. So here's some best practices for technology selection. I've worked at companies where people want to know exactly what kind of data, what kind of technology, what kind of agencies are you using. And what I always caution them is, just because we're using it here doesn't mean it's the right solution or the right provider for you at your company. I encourage people to do their own due diligence and make sure that whatever they're selecting makes sense for their own business. And one thing to consider is the customer experience. Yeah, you want to be able to use technology that's going to be great, but if it's going to be clunky and look poor or deliver a poor experience for your customer, you probably shouldn't get it. The other thing that I encourage you guys to do is evaluate technology with a process, with a proven methodology. So come up with questions or key features and functionality that you need to have. Come up with some scoring. So when you do evaluate, let's say, 3, 5 different kinds of vendors, you can score them on various things and pick which one is actually going to be your top 2, or pick the one that you're going to use. You also need to understand marketing technology in all the categories. So go back to that Topo technology stack, go back to the MarTech landscape, understand the different categories, see all of the logos or the vendors, the leading vendors in there. Look at reviews like G2 or App Exchange, or trust radius. Talk to your peers, right? But understand the different marketing technology categories, which ones could help you when you dissect that campaign blueprint, and come up with a list of who you should reach out to for your evaluation process. The other thing that's super important is ensuring your solution meets your short-term goals and can grow with you. And so right now, for example, I've heard a little bit of some scary stories. I know, everyone's going virtual. Everyone is doing webinars or virtual events. So there's all these new solutions for webinars and virtual events popping up kind of overnight. And I heard about one company switching to one of these new webinar platforms. Well, that webinar platform hasn't even built out its compliance yet, but they're still going to use it, right? That's kind of a red flag of, are we sure we're ready to switch to the technology that's going to give us the right experience? What happens if, in 6 months they're even no longer here with us? So ensure that you're going to meet your goals now, but you also don't want to have to rip something out in 6 months and look for a different solution. You want something that is there the long term for you. And then it's so important to review the vendor roadmap. So most of the time you're talking to a sales rep or maybe someone on the technical side, SC, for these calls. Ask to speak with someone on the product team. It's super important that you understand, where is this vendor going, what's their vision, how do they innovate, do they take feedback from customers and use that to create new features? Are they coming up with those new features on their own? Do they innovate monthly, quarterly, yearly? What kind of metrics, for example, can you get from their platform? How are you going to measure success? Integrations, do they integrate with all of the different technologies that you want them to? Or if they don't, are there integrations planned for the future? And then I'm a big believer, where I kind of already mentioned it, in piloting and checking out new technology. So before you plop down, tens of thousands of dollars for new technology, will they let you use it? Will they let you try it? It's a lot to take on new technology and rip something else out. So find a vendor that'll work closely with you. And then also so important is training. If you don't have the right training for the team, there's going to be an issue. And you need to also have a relationship with that vendor. So I've seen technology where I thought, oh, this is a robust platform, but I didn't feel good about the sales rep or the vendor. And other times I've made decisions for a vendor based on, I like the technology, but also I feel like they're going to partner with me. They're not going to just leave as soon as I sign the deal, right? You want someone that's going to be with you every step of the way. And as you guys know, people buy from people, so relationships really do matter. And here is the marketing technology selection process. It's an outline, and you don't have to use all of these different critical points. You can modify it to fit your needs. But basically, it's a vision of, along the way, you need to make sure that you're doing this, and then this, and then this, right? And so it also helps give you a time frame. We need this done in 3 months, or we need this done in 6 months. And so it walks you through, how do you create the vision and the goals, as well as a blueprint, as well as outlining and documenting the requirements, and then creating a short list, and then going through an evaluation process, and then creating and aligning the business case. So I encourage you guys to be very thorough in your technology selection process. As we saw earlier, about a third of the budget is going towards technology, and so you need to make sure that you really are spending it wisely. All right, so hopefully that was helpful, and what I wanted to do is kind of just wrap up today with a few points. And if we think back to optimizing your campaigns and getting the most out of engagement and the most ROI, a lot of times a comprehensive marketing technology stack can help. Many times there's technology that maybe things are being overlooked or not being done because it's too manual and it's going to take too long. That technology can be applied and provide those results that you're looking for. The other thing is research emerging technologies to give yourself an advantage. in this kind of downturn in the economy, we need to make sure we're standing out. We need to make sure that we're being heard. So research what's available and stay above the competition. Investing in training is so important. I won't buy technology unless I know my team can take it on. I actually have dollars for training, not just to get one person trained and then hope that they're going to teach everyone, right? They've got a job as well. But that we're going to be able to train everyone, and it's not just once. We're going to be able to offer training for multiple months until people feel comfortable, and also that we've got time set aside to actually use the technology. You've got to be able to, if you guys are running at 100% capacity, you've got to be able to remove some things from people's plates so they actually can start playing around and using the technology and figuring it out. And then the last thing, which is super helpful, is taking time to meet with your technology vendors. Those customer success managers that are assigned to you are there to help you for the most part. And I remember I recently told one of our vendors that I wasn't sure about, if we're using their technology right, we could use some help. And the very next day I had a VP reach out to me from customer success along with 2 other people who wanted to join a call. So they're there. They don't want to be removed and replaced. They actually want to help you be successful. So pick their brains. Set up meetings. If it's once a week, ask them if you can meet with them once a week. The other thing is it shouldn't only be your operations people. A lot of times people say, "Oh, marketing operations, they own all the marketing technology." Yeah, they do from a technology standpoint for the most part. However, I've seen demand gen marketers own it as well. But demand gen and ops are both really critical. Both of them help out with the technology. A lot of times ops is the one who integrates the technology and makes sure that you're on the latest version and you're getting the most out of it in terms of usage. But demand gen is actually the one who's in it every single day. And they're the ones that need to know all the tips and tricks and the shortcuts and how to think out of the side of the box and really use it to its full potential. So, can't stress enough to take advantage of that. All right, so hopefully, you guys found that educational. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. What I wanted to do before I leave you is just give you a little bit about Lean Data. And Lean Data is a revenue operations platform. We really think of ourselves as the strategic data layer across the revenue engine. So if you think about data and how it needs to flow to sales, to marketing, to customer success, to support, that's what we do. And so we're looking at data at the very beginning. We're unifying it. We're matching it. We're making sure that leads are associated with accounts or any kind of object is associated with accounts. We're then taking that information. We're routing it to the right person. We're looking at engagement data. We're uncovering how marketing and sales are engaging with those accounts and how your buyers are actually engaging with your programs. We're looking at the end for marketing attribution to analyze what's our impact on pipeline and revenue. And all of this is all about, sales and marketing analytics. And so you can really think about using lean data across the sales and marketing funnel. So if your funnel is a lead MQL kind of funnel, or if it's account-based, it doesn't matter. You can still use matching, engagement, routing, and attribution throughout the entire funnel. And so if you have questions, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at leandata.com. We've got bi-weekly live product demos if you'd like to see any of these products in action. And then, of course, we've got a robust resource center with assets and webinars to further help you. So with that, I'll say thank you, and I will turn it back over to Claudia.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Charm. That was great. We did get some good questions from the audience, but just a quick heads up before I get into the questions, I'd like to remind everyone once again to please take our survey, share your thoughts, share your feedback, concerns, whatever you have. Just click the survey icon or just wait for the survey to automatically launch when the session ends. And one more thing I wanted to cover, we're going to do some Q&As now, but if we don't get to your questions live, don't worry. We'll make sure to answer your questions in a follow-up email. All right, so ready for those questions. Here we go. First one, what are some of your favorite technologies that can really help increase campaign ROI?
Yeah, good question. I think some of my favorite is personalization, right? Especially since I'm a big believer in ABM. I love the personalization technologies, especially if you can go deep and apply them to a certain account or a certain set of accounts. Maybe they are all using a certain technology or an industry. I've just seen so much success using that on a website or on landing pages. I think another one is, seems kind of a little small and maybe doesn't make that big of a difference, but is email mining software. When you send out emails, you don't want to have one of the members of your team go through all of the replies. It's so easy to be able to group all of those human replies and make sure someone is actually looking at them. Or software that looks at, people who are no longer with the company and then replaces them with their replacements. So those are some really cool technologies that help you become a better marketer.
Awesome, thanks. All right, the next one. How long should I be using a technology before dumping it?
That's a hard one. I don't know if there really is a set 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. My guidance is depending on how long and how long it takes to actually implement it. Make sure that you're giving it enough time to use it. Make sure that you've trained your team, as I was talking about. Make sure that you have the people with the right skill set that are actually going to use it, and then make sure that people have time to use it. So, if I'm going to invest in technology, unless it's terrible, there's probably no way that I'm ripping it out for at least 6 months, maybe even a year, because I want to see, we picked it for a reason, and I want to try to get the most out of it before we go and switch it.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more, so I'm going to try to pick a good one here. Here we go. How long should an evaluation process take?
That's interesting as well. So I've picked technology sometimes when, we have a few weeks before the renewal is coming up. And then other times we pick technology even knowing that we don't have a renewal coming up for another 6 months. So I would try to look at what kind of technology it is that you're evaluating, how involved with other key stakeholders you need to be in the selection process. If you need to bring in someone from your operations team on the sales side or IT or customer success, you probably need to make sure that you have enough time allocated that you can bring everyone on board, make them feel good about the evaluation, make them feel like they're empowered to give you feedback. And we have to remember, as marketers, we move pretty fast, but a lot of times the rest of the company doesn't move as fast as us. Like, we're ready and we're juggling 20 different things and we're on to the next email. And sometimes people in other groups I found, they're only doing one thing, and that's the only thing that they're focusing on. And so you have to be respectful and mindful of that. And I would allow, if you're thinking about it and reviewing your contracts, we look at our contracts all the time. We've got calendar invites for 90 days out before the renewal. So we start thinking and talking about it and making sure that we've got justification in place to get the contract signed, et cetera. So I would try at least to give yourself at least a good 90 days or even more if it's going to be a huge kind of implementation.
Great. Well, all right, thank you, Charm, for those thoughtful answers. That's all the time we have for questions today, but like I said, please don't worry, we'll definitely get to your questions via email. And that's it for us today. Thank you again to Charm Bianchini for such an awesome session and really great insights. I told you all that she's a really smart person and to listen to her. And again, thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today. Please be sure to check out our next session, which is coming up very shortly at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's called 5 Ways to Maximize the Scale and Personalization of ABM Campaigns in an Uncertain Digital-Only Marketplace. It's going to be a good one, so please stay tuned. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.